Good morning, good evening, good afternoon and good night to one and all. Stamp collecting is fun and Peter is here. Sinuses are bad today, so I'm talking through my nose. So excuse the whiny language. So stamp collecting is fun, so I thought what I'd talk today about is three stamps. Three different stamps and see what we can learn and what any of them actually mean. We look at stamps all the time and, they're more than pretty pictures. They tell a story. They tell about our past. Because, let's face it, stamps are in the past. They live in the past. We own pieces of the past and they all have a particular message. So, we'll let George and whoever get on with a nice discussion about stamps, so we'll have one of our own. And which one shall we look at first? I think we'll look at this particular beauty. I've got the prongs here, so as not to pick up any stamps and therefore damage them in any way with oily hands. So what have we got here? Well, this is out of the Arts and Crafts box. In fact, all of these stamps are out of the Arts and Crafts. It's United States postage, 5 cents. It's got another flag on it and another country. How unusual is that? Denmark. So what on earth is that? Why has it got Denmark and a Denmark flag on a 5 cent United States postage stamp? That is a very good question, and I decided to ask AI what is the meaning of this, and it came back to me that it was a stamp that was issued on the 7th of December 1943. So that gave me a little bit of a clue. Because that's war. That's the Second World War. And Denmark, as we all know, was involved in that. Not particularly as the aggressor, but as a invaded country. And it turns out that the United States introduced a series of overrun countries during, they were issued in 1943. And I think there's about 15 of them. I did have a read of them. The usual suspects: Norway, France, Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Albania, Austria is in there, despite the German leader being from Austria. One of the countries, Poland, Denmark, and also Korea. In fact, Korea was the only non-European country that they issued a stamp for. Pretty ironic, in as much that United States would continue to have interest in Korea as a place, as we all know. So this is a first-class stamp. It's it's actually for foreign use. So you send this, you put this on a letter to presumably one of the free countries, but it's the United States way of supporting Denmark in their hour of need. So that's quite a nice stamp, and well done to the USA for that. Lovely stamp. What's it like at the back? Is it any value? No, For a minter, you're talking $1.25, which is about £1. This isn't mint. This is used, been through the post. Not a particularly interesting cancel, but goes in my collection. My USA collection. Right, this is a folder which I've got. Why I've still got sellotape on here, I don't know, but I'll leave it anyway. So we go to the next stamp now. Now, talking of Korea, it seems a nice time to introduce the stamps of Vietnam. And here we have a block of 4. And what else can I see here? Well, seems to be a ribbon there. There's a round earth type thing, flat. What is it? A brooch or something? Maybe a scarf. It's got Vietnam on it. It's got Hanoi, Vietnam. 1,000? I don't know. People would say this is cancelled to order, so it's purely for financial gain, not used, in other words. It's got a bend in it, another bump Dinks and Donks. It's a block of 4, so it's quite nice. I like it. I love it. So it's Vietnam. So with that information, I took to the streets of AI, and AI told me that this stamp was issued in 1977, and the symbols on it is a drum, so the round structure, the round thing here is a dong son drum, which is a musical instrument over there, and it's superimposed over the drum is a map. So that's the map of Vietnam. Wow, it is very thin and long, isn't it? And that seems very big there, and it seems thinner here. So that's quite interesting. What else can I tell you? Well, the stamp commemorates, as it being 1977, the first anniversary of the National Assembly general election. So this is celebrating the first election after unification following the war in Vietnam. And it was won by the Vietnamese, or the Vietnam Fatherland Front. The world seems to have trouble all the time, doesn't it? And the thing about motherland and fatherland and fronts and all this sort of stuff. Trouble. But it's basically the Communist Party. It's communist-led. So the Communist Party oversaw everything. It was the umbrella organisation. And then there were different sort of Vietnam Fatherland Front, or the Front of Vietnamese Fatherlands. There's all sorts of different little sects going on in there. But they won, and they formed the government, and Now, when did the Vietnam War end? Well, it ended in 1975, so this is 2 years later. Saigon fell in 75, and that signalled the end of the Vietnam War. What does Saigon subsequently changed its name to Ho Chi Minh City? What does Saigon mean as a word? Every town is named after something, isn't it? It's either named after a person or a geography or an event. So what is Saigon? What does it mean? Well, it translates as firewood of the kapok tree. The kapok tree, or the kapok tree grows prodigiously around there, and was used as firewood. So Saigon was called after that tree. Well, the firewood associated with the kapok tree. It's now called Ho Chi Minh City. Ho Chi Minh, when did he die? He died in 1969, which is before the end of the war. I didn't know that. I thought maybe he won the war. Anyway, he was replaced by someone called Le Duan. Interestingly, rulers, it's still got this. It's still presumably got the Fatherland Front in charge of Vietnam because it's still a socialist republic, and the person in charge now is Luong Quong. But interestingly, no ruler or leader of Vietnam has ever been to the USA, but presidents of the US have been to Vietnam. So Clinton was the first, then Bush, Obama, Trump, Uncle Joe Biden. They've all been to Vietnam. So obviously there's still something. There's something, isn't there between the two countries. Anyway, that's Vietnam. I'll have to hurry up with the final one, but just before we go, I'll just show you this other Vietnam stamp that I've got. So this is a pair, but different. And this is a 1977 one. You can see that. Lien Do Duoc. I don't know what it means. I didn't do any investigations with this, but I thought it was quite a nice pair. So that's Vietnam. Final stamp, the and finally moment. So we're back to the US. Back in the USA. And here we have Benjamin West, artist. As you can see, it's a 10-center US postage. This was from the American Art Series. Now, who was Benjamin West? 10 cents. Who was Benjamin West? Well, he was a British American. What on earth does that mean? Well, if I tell you he lived from the 10th of October 1738 to 1820, he was born into America that was part of the British Empire at the time. But bang smack in the middle of his life was the American War of Independence. His father actually was born in Buckinghamshire, Long Crendon it's called. Bucks, it's near Thame in Oxfordshire. It's, a sleepy backwater, beautiful area of Britain, the home counties, that sort of thing. And as they were Quakers, they went over to the USA. And and Benjamin was born there in 1738. Then who knows? But there's a war. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. And Quakers don't like wars. He was actually a founding member and president, actually, of the Royal Academy of Great Britain of Artists, the Royal Academy of Artists in Great Britain. But of course, he was a British citizen. Different times. He was born in Pennsylvania. He moved to London just for a short time, but his fame took off very quickly, and George III became a major patron. He was married to somebody local in Pennsylvania called Elizabeth Shewell. That was in 1763, and they had 2 sons, one of whom he called Raphael, who himself went on to be a pretty good painter. So the Americans, brought out a series in 1975 of painters who have contributed to American art. And to be fair, they have not wiped out the British Americans, because as you know, America is very independent. And they fought to be rid of British influence so they could run their own country, and yet they still give credence and respect to British Americans. But of course, all those fighting, you could say, were British Americans. So maybe I was babbling away for no purpose whatsoever, making no points whatsoever. That is it for now. So 3 lovely stamps, 3.5, 3 lovely stamps, but that I quite liked. I found that as well, but I was interested in the design there. Benjamin West, long live Denmark, and that's it for now. Have a fantastic day. Sunshiny here, meant to be a little bit warmer today. Still a bit of a wind out there. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.